I am again thankful to all news media outlets for letting me use their contents. I greatly appreciate that. I am available 24/7 if they need any assistance. Now go to the headlines. Hi and very warm welcome at Amir Shackle 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Following news headlines have been reported by world major English news channels and news agencies. So please watch it.
Tonight, several breaking stories as we come on the air. President Trump reverses course, pausing his tariffs. The stock market skyrocketing on his abrupt change of course. What did the president and the White House reportedly see that concerned them? Also tonight, the images, the horrific roof collapse. They are going through the pieces, searching for any possible survivors. 2 former Major League Baseball players among the dead. And now we learn what one player did to save another player. First tonight, President Trump backs down. His tariff U-turn, stocks then racing upward. You will hear how the president explained his sudden pause late this afternoon, days after saying there would be no pause. The president had said early today to Americans and investors, be cool, hoping to calm markets. Then the sudden pause this afternoon on everyone but China. Reports some Republicans on the Hill were clapping when they heard the president reverse course. So what comes next? And how China is now responding tonight. Mary Bruce live at the White House. Tonight we have new reporting, the images from inside that collapse, the nightclub roof coming down. The death toll now more than 120 people killed. Frantic families on the scene at this hour, still waiting for news on their loved ones. Victor Akenda was there in Santo Domingo. Tonight, the alarming moments on board a flight that left New York City, forced to turn back over the Atlantic, what a passenger allegedly had done. Tonight, the former NFL and college coach accused of hacking thousands of students, athletes, and others. Tonight, prosecutors reveal what they say they discovered and how he allegedly got those photos and videos of students and athletes undressed from emails and cloud storage accounts. Tonight, ABC News is inside the notorious prison in El Salvador, where the Trump administration has deported hundreds of migrants. Matt Rivers takes us through 80 inmates packed into a cell, lights that never turn off, and the Supreme Court decision that now paves the way for more migrants from the U.S. Tonight, the Idaho college murders case, the crucial hearing underway over which evidence will be allowed, and what the family of suspect Brian Koberger is hoping the judge will allow. Tonight, you will hear the 911 call, a brave 9-year-old girl in her home as an intruder breaks in, her parents confronting him, and what that 9-year-old did. Tonight, right here, the stunning new images of the Titanic, a first-of-its-kind 3D scan of the wreckage, what it might now reveal about the ship's final moments, and why they had to rush Prince Harry out of a courtroom today. From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with Taylor. Knock, knock. Nobody's home. Look at this. We've got a cafeteria, again, that's completely vacant. You've got food that's being prepared. The staff that makes the food is here 5 days a week, but the people who work in this building or should work in this building aren't here 5 days a week.
Oh, that was 3 weeks ago. U.S. Federal Housing Director Bill Pulte was searching all over for signs of life at Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and he found no one except for hardworking staffers in the cafeteria. They do a great job. But thanks to President Trump's return to work order, the buildings, they're busy again.
We're back at Freddie Mac headquarters, and the employees are back here. They're happy to be here, and it's a weekday, and you know what that means. Knock, knock.
Welcome to Freddie Mac. Come in.
Thank you. Last time we were here, it was completely ghost town. Now look at this place. It's packed. You don't even recognize it. What's the energy like now being in here 5 days a week?
I think you see in terms of productivity increasing. I think you look at folks engaging in a more personal level.
A lot of work is getting done.
Personally, I like being in the office, and I can speak for everyone. I think the collaboration is always good to be in the office.
What a concept. Getting into the office is more productive and fun. Joining me is the U.S. Federal Housing Director, Bill Pulte. Now, Bill, it's actually really good to see that video, because when I would go to visit friends, a few of them that were working still at law firms in D.C. during the pandemic, it was depressing.
Yes.
But now people are coming back. There's a real atmosphere.
There's a whole energy. It starts with President Trump. People are excited about it. People are coming up to me today whispering, saying, thank the president for you coming in here and coming back to work. Some people had never even met some of their colleagues, Laura. They'd just known them over Zoom and stuff like that. And we need to make housing more affordable in this country. But how can we do it if they aren't even meeting and coming together and getting mortgages and homes that are affordable? So everybody's back to work, and people are very happy about it.
Okay, one of those video clips, are you sure there's more extras walking in the background? You didn't get Did SAG give you some extras to walk?
No,
back?
the place
I'm
was
joking.
completely vacant when I showed up.
Yeah.
And now you got people everywhere. In fact, we have this problem at Fannie Mae. This is amazing. And this is only because of President Trump. We don't have enough room for people at Fannie Mae right now. Because literally we had gotten rid of leases and stuff like that. People are packed in like sardines right now.
So they like you. They're not mad that they're back to work.
I tell you, 4 weeks ago I showed up. Some people wouldn't even shake my hand. Today, people are so excited, so happy. They see interest rates coming down. President Trump has gotten interest rates down. People can afford homes again. People can go and get mortgages from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. We are going to have a housing boom in this country.
All right, Bill, you also announced that Fannie Mae fired about, I guess, more than 100 employees.
On this Wednesday night, the U.S. president hits the pause button. Why he's suspending his tit-for-tat tariffs and for how long.
I know what the hell I'm doing.
Plus, what it means for Canada. From tariffs to sovereignty, what's on the minds of voters in the North?
We need to be strong.
Our Donna Friesen reports from Whitehorse tonight. A global news investigation finds some backers of India's government helped to finance Pierre Poilievre's leadership campaign.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin with a stunning reversal from the U.S. president on his global trade war. Donald Trump announcing a 90-day pause on all so-called reciprocal tariffs. With one notable exception, Trump is again increasing tariffs on imports from China to 125%.
And we don't want to hurt countries that don't need to be hurt, and they all want to negotiate. The only problem is, you can only do so many at one time. We want to do it right. We want to get it right.
In response, the stock markets soared. The S&P 500 rose more than 9% by market's close, its biggest single-day gain since 2008. The Nasdaq jumped over 12%, but U.S. and Canadian markets are still lower than when Trump first announced his sweeping set of tariffs last week. A 10% baseline tariff remains in effect on all countries except for Canada and Mexico. U.S. tariffs targeting Canada remain unchanged, and most Canadian imports have so far been spared, though the U.S. Treasury Secretary told reporters that sectoral tariffs targeting Canadian steel and aluminum, for example, remain in effect. Jackson Prosco has the very latest from Washington.
I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, they were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid.
The stunning about-face came as the markets continued their multi-day meltdown after President Donald Trump began the day telling nervous Americans, be cool, everything is going to work out well. 4 hours later, he undid a mess of his own making with another social media post announcing the 90-day tariff pause and a lower 10% blanket tariff on every nation except
Tonight, the stock market skyrockets as President Trump hits pause on his global trade war. The celebrations on Wall Street as markets make some of their biggest one-day jumps ever. The rally set off when President Trump suspended most of his biggest tariffs. Apple, Walmart, and Amazon, just some of the companies bouncing back. Not backing down on China, the president going harder at America's biggest trading partner, raising their tariffs even higher. What it means for the prices you pay for everything from toys to clothing to electronics. The desperate search for survivors of that nightclub collapse in the Dominican Republic as the death toll soars to more than 100. And now word that the family of former baseball star Pedro Martinez missing there as well. Brian Kohberger in court, the two words now banned from the murder case of those 4 University of Idaho students. Breaking her silence, former First Lady Michelle Obama speaks out for the first time on the rumors about her marriage. Why she says she sometimes does her own thing. Close call to video of a massive tree toppling onto a car as it comes to a stop. How the driver got out with barely a scratch. And air travel slowdown. The major airline CEO saying domestic air travel is stalling. So will your next plane ticket be cheaper?
This is
BCTV and ABC iView. Today, financial markets surge after Donald Trump suspends U.S. tariffs on goods from most countries except China. Coalition pledges to set up 2 new future funds for regional areas, while Labor promises cash to better protect the Great Barrier Reef. Volodymyr Zelensky claims more than 150 Chinese nationals are fighting alongside Russian troops in Ukraine. And King Charles and Queen Camilla pay a surprise private visit to a recovering Pope Francis during their state visit to Italy. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Melissa McKay. Australian stocks are trading around 5% higher following a strong lead from Wall Street. The US benchmark surged after the US president suddenly reversed his most crippling tariffs against dozens of countries. Less than a day after they came into effect, Donald Trump has announced a 90-day pause on higher import taxes against most nations, but has zeroed in on China, hiking levies against the manufacturing powerhouse to 125%. That's after Beijing fought back and introduced its own retaliatory charges against Washington. The rethink brings most countries in line with the 10% baseline duty, which already applies to Australia.
Égalité, actualité.
Good morning, I'm Oliver Farry, and this is Daybreak. Asian markets surge after Donald Trump pauses most of his tariffs for 90 days. The US president made the move in response to stock market turmoil, but there's no let-up for China, whose tariffs were raised to 125% by Trump. We'll be speaking to Fraser Jackson in Washington. France aims to recognize Palestinian statehood by June, says President Emmanuel Macron. If the move goes through, France would follow Spain, Ireland, Norway and Slovenia in recognizing Palestine in recent years. But Macron also says more countries in the Middle East should in turn recognize Israel. Turkey's opposition leader Özgür Özel says his party will fight till the end against President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, accusing the government of carrying out a coup against the country's next president by jailing Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu. Özel called on the government to face the people in early elections. And Paris Saint-Germain take a step closer to the Champions League semi-final with a 3-1 win over Aston Villa at the Parc des Princes. And LeBron James makes Barbie history, becoming the first sports star to be immortalized as a Ken doll. There was a positive response to Donald Trump's decision to pause most of his tariffs on imports as Asian shares surged in early Thursday trading, with Japan's benchmark jumping more than 2,000 points almost immediately after the Tokyo Exchange opened. We can take a look at the early trading figures, with the Tokyo Nikkei up 8.33%, the Shanghai Composite up 1.64%, and in Hong Kong the Hang Seng is 4.18% up, while the Seoul Kospi is up 5.38%. Donald Trump took a step back from the brink on Wednesday, pausing most of the tariffs he has imposed on imports for 90 days. The US president had been under increasing pressure following turmoil in the stock market caused by the tariffs, which went into effect on Wednesday. Countries subject to the pause will now be tariffed at 10%, but there was no let-up for China, which saw its tariffs on imports to the US cranked up to 125% by Trump.
Good morning. Donald Trump imposes a 90-day tariff pause.
The US president announces the break on all countries but doubles down on China as stock markets in America surge.
Well, he claims people were getting a little bit queasy. What's the word, Chris?
Yippee.
Over the past week.
People were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid, unlike these champions. Because we have a big job to do. No other president would have done what I did. No other president. I know the presidents. They wouldn't have done it.
Royals in Rome. The King and Queen meet the Pope in a surprise visit on their 20th wedding anniversary.
Bobby's on the beat. The government confirms plans to put 13,000 more officers on our streets.
Birmingham, second city, faces a Victorian-era disease crisis as rats feast on rotting rubbish amid the bin strikes.
Big Brother thinks your language was offensive and unacceptable.
We'll be getting the latest on the drama in the Big Brother house as actor Mikey Rourke is reprimanded over making homophobic comments.
As unions join the Tories in calling for a school ban on mobile phones, we're asking, should parents limit kids' screen time? And in the sport this morning, Aston Villa, well, they've lost 3-1 to PSG in Paris last night, but they still have the home leg of the park to play, although it's not over yet, but it is going to be difficult. Too late for Mark Foster, but not for Adam Peaty. The 15-metre breaststroke is going to be included for the first time at the LA Olympics. And I'll tell you, yippee, now that is a golf term. And here's someone that didn't get the yips. This is, have a look at this, the Masters starting today. And if Rory McIlroy puts like his 4-year-old daughter Poppy does, he may well win his first green jacket. Watch this.
Some of us have woken up to cloudy skies this morning. There is more warm, sunny weather to come. I'll have the details coming up.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Ellie Costello.
And I'm Christopher Hope, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Hello, a very good morning. It's 7 o'clock. Coming up on the show today, China rolls out its response after being left the only country facing steep US tariffs.
A baseline 10% remains in place for everyone else, including the UK. We'll speak to the Home Secretary. Plus, why fewer people could end up being sent to prison.
And Great British TV and film, is it time to levy the streamers to support the industry? It's Thursday the 10th of April. Global markets move into the fast lane after Trump's tariff pause as China rolls out its own 84% levy this morning.
People were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid.
A surprise royal visit. The palace releases this photo of the King and Queen meeting with the Pope. Plus,
We are on mission, right? These missiles are ready to go.
we step inside NATO's first line of defence as ministers meet today to discuss Europe's security. This goal from Morgan Rogers may have had Aston Villa's most famous fan off his seat. But Prince William's celebrations were cut short in a 3-1 defeat to PSG in the Champions League quarter-finals. Hello, very good morning. Thanks for joining us here today. Our top story, China has just hit back at the US with an 84% tariff after being the only country left facing President Trump's steep trade duties.
This is Asia Now.
It's 2 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 11:30 in New Delhi, and 1 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Paul Sun. At this hour, a 90-day tariff pause by President Trump sparks a global stock rally. But the halt in tariff does not apply for China, which gets hit with a steeper 125% rate. Beijing's retaliatory 84% duties on U.S. goods takes effect today. Amid those tariff tensions, China says it's ready to deepen trade ties with ASEAN. Malaysia, as bloc chair, is expected to lead regional cooperation and is hosting key economic talks today to chart the path forward. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says 155 Chinese nationals recruited via social media are fighting for Russia, claims Beijing firmly denies, calling them groundless. Markets in Asia surge as investors digest US President Donald Trump's shift in trade policy and the impact of China's revised 84% levy on American goods. Chinese stocks sharply up, with investors downplaying the latest increases in tariffs for China from the US. Chinese technology names also seeing modest gains. The Hang Seng Index is currently trading up by almost 4%, Xpeng among the best performers, while giants Alibaba and Baidu looking like this. Now, Taiwan's TAIEX ending at a record of up by 9.25%, and Japan's Nikkei 225 in the final moments of trade, currently up 8.45%. South Korea's Kospi also set to finish today by about 6%.
Africa News. The news. As of Wednesday, South Africa's exports to the United States will be hit with a 31% duty. The country is a major exporter of agricultural goods to the US, with citrus fruits leading the way. Because of the tariffs, the Citrus Growers Association sees over 30,000 jobs are on the line. The duty means South African fruits will become less competitive, something that could force many small and medium-sized farms to close down.
We do not know exactly the economic nationalism that is prompting Trump to go this particular route, but the benefits for now will actually be not felt by the United States, the consumers will have to buy more.
The Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU, has warned that the impact of the tariffs extends far beyond agriculture, affecting mining, jewelry, automotive, chemical, and textile manufacturing sectors.
There is an incentive for the rest of the world to make sure that they actually bolster intra-trade amongst themselves. Here in Africa, where we're standing at the moment, we're talking about the African Continental Free Trade Area. That should enhance trade amongst African countries. We have struggled up to now. Trade between African countries hasn't even reached 20%. So maybe President Trump, by being economically nationalistic, is actually giving us incentive as Africa to try to make sure that we trade more.
The tariffs went into force on Wednesday, rattling stock markets around the world.
South Sudan has reversed its decision of refusing the entry of a man deported from the US on its territory in the spirit of friendly relations with Washington, according to the South Sudanese government. The two countries have been in a visa row after the US imposed a blanket visa ban on South Sudan on the 5th of April and accused the country of failing to accept its citizens deported from American territory in a timely manner. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio furthermore said that the South Sudanese citizens would be prohibited from entering US territory. The transitional government at Juba had then initially refused the entry of a man that it said was a citizen of the Democratic Republic of Congo and not of South Sudan, before backtracking on its decision on Tuesday. Under President Donald Trump, the US has considerably ramped up its enforcement of immigration rules and has cracked down on immigrants it considers to have entered the country illegally. The row between the two countries also comes as fears have been growing that South Sudan might redescend into civil war in the face of increasing political instability. Washington ordered all its non-emergency staff to leave the country last month. 3 American citizens who faced death sentences over a failed coup attempt against the presidential palace in Kinshasa, DRC, in May 2024 are now in American custody and will be repatriated to the US, according to the US State Department.
Now, of course, we refer you to the U.S. Department of Justice in this regard for further information. They are, of course, they've been transferred. They're in our custody, and we also strongly condemn the armed attacks of May 19th and support the DRC authorities in holding those responsible appropriately accountable. At the same time, we seek consistent, compassionate, humane treatment and a fair legal process on behalf of those U.S. citizens.
The pardon and repatriation came amid efforts by Congolese authorities to sign a minerals deal with the U.S. in exchange for security support in the fight against rebels in eastern DRC.
Malaria remains one of the deadliest diseases in the world, with nearly 600,000 deaths recorded in 2023, the vast majority occurring in Africa. To combat this ongoing crisis, scientists at Imperial College London are developing a revolutionary genetic modification that could render malaria-transmitting mosquitoes incapable of spreading the disease.
These are exogenous genes that we bring into the mosquito. They are known antimicrobial molecules from other species. For example, one of them we're using is from the honeybee. And we need this modification to propagate, to spread, so that every mosquito eventually, in Africa, every malaria-transmitting mosquito at least, will carry this.
Before this technology can be deployed in the field, extensive testing and validation are required. If successful, the genetic modification could provide a long-term solution by ensuring future generations of mosquitoes are incapable of transmitting malaria.
We have to prove in the lab that it works the way we want it to work. And then we have to prove that it is safe. It doesn't cause any additional harm, any unintentional harm, both to people and the environment. It is accepted by the communities. It's accepted by the regulators before we're able to test them in the field.
The World Health Organization has endorsed 2 malaria vaccines. However, malaria remains a persistent public health challenge, requiring multiple approaches to curb its transmission.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shekel 5858. I am Amir Shekel. Have a good life. Bye-bye.